Rick Wilson, the Lincoln Project founder. Rick, thank you so much for joining. Did Pete Hegseth commit war crimes here?
Yeah. I mean, look, this isn't a debatable matter at this point. When you are, and this is a term of art in the military, when you are hors de combat, when you are out of combat, you are no longer a valid target. This is a very simple thing. It's Article 119 in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Pete Hegseth ordered a murder. That's all it is. That was pure murder. Once somebody is combat ineffective, once they are wounded or off the battlefield, once they are no longer an enemy combatant, they are protected under both our Uniform Code of Military Justice in the U.S., American law, e.g. due process, and treaties to which we are the signatory of, like the Geneva Convention, that says, and in the Geneva Convention, it literally has a thing saying, if you were involved in naval warfare and you sink the enemy ship and they're clinging to the rafts or clinging to the ship, they must not be attacked. Pete Hegseth said, kill them all, according to this report. And the people down the line, according to the report, SEAL Team 6, in command of some drones, hit the boat a second time and killed those people who were at that point. Even if you accept all the White House and DOD perspective on this, these are evil drug smugglers, whatever. Even if you accept that, we did not, under any legal standard, have the right to launch a second strike once that boat was on fire and sinking, and those men were in the water and they were injured. That's it.
Yeah. Even if people are accused of bad things and you believe that they're doing, and you have evidence that they're doing, you still have to follow the rules, Rick. And
there are laws, Don, and that's the thing, man. It's this administration is so lawless. And I wrote a piece this morning. It's called "War Criminals and War Criminals." It seems like this administration is hell-bent to go to war in Venezuela. They are hell-bent to cut a deal with Russia to sell off Ukraine so that Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump get rich off the deal. And they seem to be tolerating war criminals in the form of Pete Hegseth. And I think this now tells us why the commander of Southcom quit right after that strike happened. Because he clearly decided he was not going to have this on his copybook at the end of this thing of going along with setting a precedent to kill people outside the color of law.
What did you think of, I played Donald Trump's, I was remiss in asking you right after, Donald Trump's response for him saying, well, I don't know. I believe what he said. I don't know. How could he not know? The buck stopped with him.
If you're the commander in chief and you are ordering lethal strikes, it doesn't matter if it's a lethal strike against Iranian nuclear facilities or against these boats. As the commander in chief, it is your responsibility, your duty to know what you're doing when you're using the astounding power of the U.S. military in this world. The commander in chief should know exactly what's going on. He should have weighed the consequences, validated the intelligence, thought this through. I mean, and you know, I've been around national security a lot of my career, and I can tell you that if George W. Bush had been handling this or Barack Obama had been handling this, they sure as hell would have known, or even George W. or Bill Clinton, they sure as hell would have known exactly what was going on. They would have asked questions like, does this intelligence stack up? Do we know what we're doing? Do we know who we're targeting? Do we know exactly what these boats have on them? And I can tell you, no one either can or will explain their intelligence, which is a huge red flag in this circumstance, that the president doesn't care. He wants to see the boom on TV. He doesn't care about how it got there.
Right. Because he's the one who's been demanding these strikes. He's been demanding aggressive actions, Rick, and he's been surrounding himself with advisors, right? Lackeys who echo his fantasies about toughness. Pete Hegseth is one of those advisors. He's not a man who got the job because of a long, distinguished command career. He got the job because Trump watches him on television and thinks that he's strong. And Trump said it. I think he's just exactly the kind of guy that's right for recruitment, which is, you know, the guys who are in the trenches, the tough guys, like that kind of thing.
He's a manly warfighter with great hair.
Okay. Exactly. So when should we be surprised when Pete Hegseth puts out something like this, a cartoon that makes fun of this? Franklin targets narco terrorists and then go on, and then you can see it's a turtle shooting at, boats in the water, which is just, I mean, that's the Secretary of Defense. And then I'm so glad that Sarah Jacobs fixed it and said, "Look, here, I fixed it for you."
Yes.
Targets.
Yes.
Franklin is a war criminal. That's Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, by the way. So what do you think that was?
I mean, and Don, to my surprise, this weekend we had both the Republican chairman of the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee come out and say, there's something wrong here. We're going to investigate this. Now, will they deliver anything on that? Who knows? But I think this has shaken up a lot of people. This story in particular. And I will say one other thing. If I'm Pete Hegseth, I would have had a little shiver up my spine when Trump goes, "Well, I don't know what he did. He told me he did that." I got a little bit of that, like Trump starting to distance himself vibe off of that. I'm not positive on that yet, but it certainly, it sprung on my antenna a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So Mike Rogers is now saying it must be investigated, right?
Yeah.
And how are Republicans feeling? I saw, I think it may have been Hogan Gidley or someone saying, there's a politician or someone who is using this for political expediency. And the commentator said, well, how is that going to help a Republican member of the House Armed Services Committee? Like, how is that?
Right.
But no answer. There was no answer. Just saying everyone has an agenda.
Yeah. Look, and I do think there is a increasing world where these Republicans are looking at Donald Trump with a 35 to 32% approval rating, depending on the poll from the weekend. And they're getting a little nervous. They're now looking at this like, do I need some daylight somewhere? Maybe this is the place they put some daylight. And Hegseth has been problematic from the beginning for Congress. They squeezed him through there by one vote. This was a very nerve-wracking decision for a lot of them. I don't think Hegseth is so beloved that he can't be thrown into the wolves. But I do think there's another element here, two other elements here we should consider. Hegseth is taking a lot of the hits here, but in a lot of ways, the architect of this war in Venezuela is Marco Rubio, who wants that for his presidential campaign in 2028, and Stephen Miller, who wants to escalate what he's done domestically, internationally, in terms of attacking countries where people want to immigrate to America from.
We take seriously the reports of follow-on strikes on boats alleged to be ferrying narcotics in the Southcom region and are taking bipartisan action to gather a full accounting of the operation in question. That is what Mike Rogers, who is a Republican member, head of the House Armed Services Committee, and Adam Smith of Washington, who is the top Democrat on the panel. That's a joint bipartisan statement. By the way, Mike Rogers is Alabama. Is anything going to come of this?
You know what? I have learned my lesson over time to never underestimate the cowardice of the Republican Party when it comes to dealing with holding anyone around Donald Trump accountable. But I think this actually triggered a level where people are asking themselves, do you want China to behave this way towards American troops someday? Yeah. Do you want an adversary anywhere in the world to behave this way toward American soldiers or sailors or airmen if they're shot or captured? And the answer is you don't. You want those conventions to be upheld around the world, even if they feel uncomfortable on one level. They're not. They're there for a reason. They're there because war is a savage, horrible business. And if we don't have some lines and boundaries in it, it always will escalate to something much, much worse.
Mm-hmm.
So
I want to play something. I want to show you something, not play something for you. And this is from the Judge Advocate General Court, which is at JAGS, right? What we call JAGS. Okay. And they put out this joint statement. Let me get the statement right here. It is. So they put out this joint statement saying that yesterday the Washington Post and CNN reported that the Secretary of Defense personally issued orders to kill everybody aboard a civilian vessel suspected of narco trafficking, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on, says, former JAGS working group unanimously considers both the giving and the execution of these orders If true, it constitutes war crime, murders, or both. Then it says if the U.S. military operation to interdict and destroy suspected narco trafficking vessels is a non-international armed conflict, and the Trump administration suggests orders to kill everybody, which can reasonably be regarded as an order to give no quarter and to double tap a target in order to kill survivors, are clearly illegal under international law. In short, they are war crimes. So they're saying Pete Hegseth and whoever carried this out, the folks, everyone who's responsible, everyone within who had something to do with this, committed a war crime.
Don, the problem for the folks that pulled the trigger on that drone, supposedly, and again, this is from the reporting we read over the weekend, it was SEAL Team 6 in command of a JSOC or Southcom drone. I read two variations of that. On orders from Pete Hegseth, who went down the chain to Southcom, said, order them to hit it again, kill everyone on board, kill them all. They are culpable as well. Now, it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a lot harder for those trigger pullers, for the SEAL Team 6 guys or the drone operators to be held accountable because they were obeying orders. They did not have an immediate knowledge those orders could be illegal. They were operating probably under the presumption that they are legal orders, that they are correctly issued orders. But Pete Hegseth had the DOD general counsel in that room. I promise you that's how this works. They had the counsel in the room. That is how these kind of operations work. They don't happen without legal cover. And the fact that they happened at his insistence, I think, is where he is in some legal jeopardy. We'll find out if Trump's going to pardon him. He probably will in advance, and probably pardon anybody else involved in the operation in advance, because he uses the pardon power like an eraser. But I think Hegseth, he's certainly now proved the point of what the 6 Democratic senators and representatives were saying last week. You were obliged to disobey an illegal order.
You took the words right out of my mouth, and that's what I'm going to get to next. But let me just be clear. If you look at the last highlighted thing that should be up on the screen now from the Jags, the former Jags, if the U.S. military operation is not an armed conflict of any kind, these orders to kill, they're going to try to make it an armed conflict, which it was not. To kill helpless civilians clinging to the wreckage of a vessel our military destroyed would subject everyone from the SecDef, as you said, down to the individual who pulled the trigger to prosecution under the U.S. law for murder.
Article 119, if you're in the military, murder if you're not. This is bright line, as they call it, black letter law. There's these aren't debatable points that once he was told they were clinging to the wreckage, they are no longer combat effective at that point, if you're even considering them combatants. These are civilians. These are not members of a military organization. They may be members of a drug cartel. We don't know, because the Pentagon has never, and the intelligence service has never provided us with any real data on that, other than trust me, bro. So I think Hegseth is in a lot of peril.
This is Senator Mark Kelly on yesterday talking about the boat strikes, and then we're going to get to the, as you said, refusing orders thing. Here's the first one about the boat strikes.
Happening right now. The Washington Post reporting that Secretary Hegseth gave an order to kill everybody on one of those suspected drug boats during the first strike in September. Are you calling for U.S. service members to actively disobey orders like those?
Well, if orders are illegal, not only do they not have to follow them, they are legally required not to follow them.
Do you think that constitutes an illegal order?
I think there needs to be an investigation, and I hope that the reporting is not accurate. I care so much about the United States Navy and those service members. This was an operation involving the most professional members of the military, U.S. Navy SEALs, who I revere. I hope and pray that this is not true. But there needs to be an investigation by the Inspector General. Pete Hegseth fired many of the inspectors general in DOD. But who's ever left needs to investigate it. We're going to investigate it. I sit on the Armed Services Committee. We're going to have an investigation. We're going to We're going to have a public hearing. We're going to put these folks under oath, and we're going to find out what happened, and then there needs to be accountability.
Okay, so much to say here. Number one, that's a good guy. That exactly is a public servant and someone who fought for this country.
100%.
The other thing is that, yeah, because there's so many people involved in these, and if these folks who are following these orders, if it does turn out to be illegal, they were following Pete Hegseth and whomever. It's terrible all the way around for everyone. But it also proves a point of what he was saying about he and other Democratic members, lawmakers were saying about not following illegal orders. It seems like they're making the point, Donald Trump.
Look, Trump has proved their case for them. You know, all these ideas that you're going to prosecute these people, reactivate Kelly and court-martial him, do all this stuff that they were throwing out last week, all this trash they were trying to throw out last week about them. They've now proved the case that there are illegal orders being issued. They are and that under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, those service members are required to follow legal orders only, and they are required to disobey illegal orders. Those are things that have been precedential in American in the UMCJ for hundreds of years now. You know, if you're in the military and the commander says go in that orphanage and kill all those children, that is by definition an illegal order. That's a clearly understood illegal order. You have to disobey that order. Now, it is harder for these Navy SEALs who are targeting this boat to understand whether or not there's legal cover for what they're doing. But Hegseth, I absolutely assure you, there was a lawyer in that room, because these people are already very nervous. There's a reason why they're asking people involved in this operation in the Caribbean right now to sign civil NDAs. There's a reason why they're doing this. They're nervous as hell right now that they're not just at the line of illegality, but that they're over it. So I think, Don, we have a real moment here where the military is probably having some internal discussions that we're not privy to, that aren't leaking out there, that there's going to be a moment soon, I suspect, where they say, Mr. Secretary, we cannot carry out that order.
Rick, you bring us to one more thing that I want to hear from Mark Kelly, because he addresses exactly what you're saying. Here it is.
I want to put the question to you. If you were still in uniform, if you received an order to strike suspected drug boats overseas and kill everybody on board, would you refuse that order in real time?
Well, let me start by saying I've sunk 2 ships. I sunk an OSA 2 missile patrol boat in Kuwait Harbor. I sunk a Polnokny troop carrier in the Persian Gulf during the first Gulf War. Never once did I question whether those orders were legal or illegal. People can tell the difference, should be able to tell the difference between something that is unlawful and something that is lawful. And if I was ever given an unlawful order, I would refuse. If you have time, you can certainly go to the judge, advocate generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
But it's a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility. And they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal. And I was saying weeks ago, my concern is with the service members, that we're gonna put these individuals in a really, really tough decision, in a tough place. And they may find out, down the road that they did something that is illegal. It is not fair to them. That's why we need presidents and Secretary of Defense who understand the Constitution, who understand the rule of law, and have more respect for the Constitution and the country and service members than the whims of a president.
Let me just say this, Rich.
Spot on.
If the election was tomorrow,
oh, fuck yeah,
Mark Kelly would have my vote.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Listen, he is showing command leadership at every level. He is showing what a guy who has thousands of flight hours in high-performance complex jet aircraft and spacecraft, who has led men and women into combat, who has been shot at, and who also has served his country and understands that the systems and the law and the Constitution, it's a fabric that should bind us together and protect us from evil action rather than, as he was saying, the whims of one man.
Yeah. Look, I think that Mark Kelly has found his groove. This is his groove.
Yeah.
Right here. And I said, when they criticized him last week, all the nasty things they said about him, I was like, well,
sure.
What? I said, Rick, and you guys, lemon heads, I said, why don't they just go ahead and make him president right now? Okay? So I feel like if he continues on with this, and if something happens, I mean, look out. I mean, Mark Kelly could be a contender in 2028, but he does. It is a huge responsibility to be a service member in this country, and it should not be taken lightly. And we should respect the people in uniform, and so should the commanders, the people who are commanding them and who are their superiors. And it appears at this point that they don't, because they have their own agenda of what they think is right and what they want, whether it is constitutional or not, Rick.
Yep, that is exactly it. And look, I think they want a show. They want to show they want to have video of the ships blowing up. They want to feed the MAGA content machine. They want to say, oh, those people we're handcuffing kids in the streets of Chicago and Charlotte because of these drug boats, which is, it's real hard to connect those things in the reality world. We're invading Venezuela because of drugs. It's bullshit. They know it. And they're going to put hundreds or thousands of American lives at risk. Look, there's no war Venezuela wins if we go to war with Venezuela.
Right.
Don't win that war. Okay.
Right.
But the unintended consequences of that will be enormous for us. You will end up with China getting so much more powerful in South America because they all now see Donald Trump and the America of today. Look, Donald Trump, just like in Russia, trying to sell off Ukraine to Russia, Donald Trump wants to be able to say to his folks in the oil and gas industry, I opened up the Venezuelan oil fields for you. That's what he wants to do. I mean, I'm not a conspiracist in those sort of things. They've just been obvious enough about it over the last several years. And that's been a pitch that Rubio has made that I know about when he's pitched people 10 years ago wanting to go to war with Venezuela, that it would pay for itself by us taking the oil and gas reserves of Venezuela. I have been to this rodeo once before in the Middle East, and it did not work out well for us.
Rick, I want to look. This is off the subject, but not really. All right.
Okay.
Before you go, I want to talk about Kristi Noem. Did you see her yesterday as well?
I did.
About the flight and disobeying the federal judge and all of that. This was her on Meet the Press as well, being asked about that, dodging it, but appearing that she did do it. And if so, she will find herself in a world of trouble. Here it is.
In a filing in federal court this week, the Justice Department said that when the administration was ordered back in March to stop sending detained migrants to a mega prison in El Salvador, you personally made the final call to continue the flights anyway. Is that correct? Do you acknowledge that?
We have court filings going on and decisions that are going forward. I'll let them continue to play through that process.
But did you make that
I'm
call?
proud of President Trump and his leadership and the decisions that we have made. And the decisions that are made on deportations, where flights go and when they go, are my decision at the Department of Homeland Security. And we will continue to do the right thing and ensure that dangerous criminals are removed.
So that you're saying that it was your decision. It sounds like the judge wanted.
So, yeah, she's, by the way, a judge is weighing in a potential contempt prosecution referral for Kristi Noem in the El Salvador deportations. But then she admitted, she goes, the decisions are all hers, but she still tried to dodge the question.
But you notice that 2-beat moment in the beginning of that question, before she answered the question. You and I both been on enough TV to know when somebody's about to step in it. She had that 2-second beat. And I was like, that is her soul leaving her body.
Yes, because Rick, the answer too. If you're like, oh shit, you hear it coming, you just go. All you have to do is say, well, look, that's not really the question. The question is blah blah blah.
Right.
Dodge it.
That I'm here to talk about today.
And then it's like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
She is. Look, I thought that Kristi Noem at some point would be a sacrificial lamb for these people, because they don't like Corey in the White House these days. And so she'll end up going down because they hate Corey. It's a weird, like, internal Trump dynamic. And look, Trump likes her
You're
because
talking about Corey Lewandowski, who's alleged to be her boyfriend.
Yeah, right. And who is like butting heads with Stephen Miller. Like Noem needs to be in the center of all the pictures. They don't like that. They want Trump in more of this. Oh, there's a lot going on there. But Noem clearly, yeah, he's married. As far as I know, he's still married.
Married. Okay. She is.
But the whole Noem show has inevitably run up against these legal problems because she just defies court orders. They just ignore them. And that is something that Stephen Miller is also going to be liable for, I think, down the line, Don, because he is the one running these policies. He's the one describing these. Noem is the implementer of these things.
Okay.
Donald Trump better be ready to hand out a whole shit ton of pardons.
But I wonder, can he do that if it's, I guess he's a commander in chief. I was going to say if it's a military tribunal or whatever, if it's a court martial.
Well, it won't be, it won't be military tribunal for DHS and ICE. That'll be criminal cases.
Yes, that's criminal cases. I'm talking about for the Hegseth stuff.
Yeah, I think he can for the secretary, and he can certainly pardon or commute sentences for military officers. Because remember, he commuted Eddie Gallagher's sentence, the former Navy SEAL who was convicted of war crimes by killing in Iraq a wounded, I don't know if he was ISIS or Al Qaeda in Iraq soldier. He killed the guy. After he was wounded, after he was being treated by medics, he killed the guy. Trump pardoned him.
Got it. Wow.
So, we know the guy. We know Trump will lean in on anything that is going to cause more pain for more people.
But Noem is up. It's a horse of another color for Noem.
Noem will be. Noem will be. That will be criminal court. It will be federal, and it will not. And the statute of limitations is like 10 years. So, if all these people don't get a pardon soon, and Trump drops dead, there's a lot of folks going to jail.
Okay, you had to say that, didn't you? You had to because right here, because this is Trump on his MRI results. I was going to wait till after you left, but here it is.
They asked about my MRI. MRIs are very.
Governor Walz asked you to release the MRIs, right?
Will you tell us what it was Governor for? Walz, you mean the incompetent governor? So if they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect. What were they it's like my phone call where I got impeached. It's absolutely perfect. So if you want to hear about it or if you want to release it, you want to have it released. Yes, News Nation, failing News Nation. News Nation is doing lousy, by the way. But if you want to have it released, I'll release it.
Tell us what they were looking at.
For what, releasing?
No. What part of your body was the MRI looking at?
I have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark, which you would be incapable of doing. Goodbye, everybody. You too.
Thank you, Mr. President.
He doesn't know which part of the body, and he knows it wasn't his brain because he had that doesn't make any sense.
He's like a child, but like Chucky. He's just like the evil and the chaos is just seeping out of this guy.
Yeah, I think my opinion, I think he's, and if you listen to some doctors, even Dr. Ben Gupta from MS Now, and saying, I think that he's not well, more so than they're letting on.
Oh, I think that's, Don, I think when he dies, we're going to see a cover up that makes what happened with Biden look like nothing.
How many people will be writing books, you think?
Oh, all of them. There's going to be 25 people in the White House who write, I was there trying to hold back the tide of chaos and evil.
Rick,
the Susie Wiles story.
Thank you, Rick Wilson.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.